We're going to get started very shortly. We're just waiting for, Councillor Harding to take her seat.
Deputy Mayor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee. It is August the 6th, and it's a couple of minutes after 1. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. First item is to look at the approval of the minutes from the June 15th. Do you have anybody move the minutes? Moved by Councillor White, second by Councillor Hartling. All those in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We now have official minutes. Next is the approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Are there any, Madam Clerk, any changes of the order of business or additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions have been received by the Clerk's Office, Chair.
Thank you. Anything from the committee? Yes, go ahead, Councillor. No, sorry. So you, Councillor Diego Gama is putting forward the approval of the business and or approval of additions. Seconder, Councillor Steele. All those in favor?
Aye.
We now have an agenda. Thank you very much. Are there any business arising out of the minutes? Seeing none, we call for declaration of conflict of interest for the Environmental Sustainability Company. Councillor Austin, you don't have shares in some oil company down in no. So I see no declaration of conflict. Next, we have motions of reconsideration, motions of rescission, consideration deferred business, notice of table matters, all fall into the none category. We now come to number 10.1 correspondence. Madam Clerk, are there any correspondence received?
No correspondence has been received by the Clerk's Office.
And I'll ask the same with regard to petitions.
No petitions either have been received by the Clerk's Office.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any petitions from the committee? Seeing none. Now we have actually 3 presentations. We have 2 from the public and 1 from staff. First up is 10.3.1. Mr. Gaudette is update on stormwater management in HRM, and I believe Mr. Gaudette is going to join us by Zoom. Is that correct? Mr. Gaudette, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. And looks like you're in your lovely cabin somewhere in the wilderness. Be careful walking through the woods, sir, when you're getting there. But
Thank you.
Welcome to you. You have 10 minutes. We'll turn the floor over to you. Then after, as you know, you're no stranger to this committee. After your presentation, then committee can ask for clarifying questions. So if you're ready to go, sir, I'll give the floor to you, and your 10 minutes begins now.
Thank you. So I do have a presentation, which I don't see on the screen right now.
Okay, we're going to work on that. And there you go.
There we go. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so today's presentation, who we are, we did come by on March 6th and did a presentation. We have a letter to Minister Hallman to talk to you about, and we'd like to talk about the framework for integrated watersheds management. Next slide, please. Okay, so who are we? We're a volunteer collective of natural scientists and policy professionals. We provide advice to decision makers that includes staff and politicians at all levels on freshwater issues. You could see us as an independent successor to the Regional Watersheds Advisory Group. We accept no donations, no financial administrative support, so we are very determined, I should say, to be independent independent to remain independent. So we have an all-star cast of natural scientists and policy people, activists, longtime activists. I won't read through them. I hope that you have met these people. And if you have not, it just occurred to me maybe some sort of social occasion where we could all meet and have a little chat would be fun and productive. Next slide, please. Okay, so what did we say on March 6th? At the broadest level, our lakes and rivers are extremely valuable. Problems in our lakes and rivers are getting worse, and a key reason for that is that lake ecosystems tend to hold on to nutrients they receive. They cycle them and they accumulate. This can lead to ecological tipping points, which are unpredictable. We don't know when they'll happen, but in that case, the lakes can become smelly and messy, unusable for recreation. As we said in the letter to Minister Holman, we'd be foolish to think that our lakes are immune to this. It's based on very long-standing lake science. So strong action, we argued, is necessary and justified. Basically, need to stop polluted stormwater from entering the watersheds. We also argued that the benefits of action, if you look broadly at the notion of benefits, exceed the costs of inaction, particularly in the Dartmouth lakes. And we're out of time. Really, we're out of time because we don't know where the tipping points are, and we certainly wouldn't want to be crossing them. Next slide, please. So we wrote to Mr. Holman because one of the strong suggestions from councillors on March 6th was to take our message to the province. So we wrote to Minister Holman, and you have that letter. I hope if you haven't had the chance to read it yet, you will. And argued that engineering solutions are needed to keep polluted stormwater out of our waterways. I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's just true. Other system players have taken the position that they cannot implement solutions unless they're required to by provincial regulations. We didn't want to be so bold as to say, so damn it, pass those provincial regulations, and at least leave an opening for, okay, well, perhaps the minister could bring together a task force and see if it's really true that we're unable to do anything about the problems until and unless the province moves, or if there are other options. Let's just reality test that. Next slide, please. So Minister Holman wrote back quite promptly. We were happy to receive his reply, which suggested that we meet with environmental engineering staff. We did that in late July, and we found staff very open to discussing issues and potential solutions with us. Of course, having had just one meeting, there's nothing really to report at this point, but we do look forward to future discussions in the fall, and we're hopeful that that process can lead to some positive results. Next slide, please. Okay, so the framework for integrated watersheds management, that was passed unanimously by this committee just about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. I'm sure you'll recall, it's a 2-year process to develop a watershed management plan. They met first just a couple of months ago, June 2025, and they are scheduled to meet again on August 20th. Again, as a refresher, that includes a steering committee composed of local residents. It's led by a facilitator, consensus decision-making. It is a significant investment of time, effort, money, and citizen goodwill. So we would like to discuss what we think success would look like and what would failure look like. Next slide, please. So, ingredients for success. We want to suggest that we would need to address real and observable problems. So things we can see and touch and smell, weeds, algae, bacteria, salt, not abstract indicators like trophic level, which, by the way, the results are quite contradictory on that. So let's stick to what we can see and what we know are problems. We would need clear goals and metrics, and we want to explore engineering solutions. The steering committee does have the power to call in experts and contract them. Also want to not forget that the city has significant capacity in this regard. They do know, a lot of strategies that could be used. We'd want to distinguish between short and long-term actions, and especially not limit to just what the municipality can do. We would want to identify partners and sources of financing. Next slide, please. So goals and metrics would need to be driven by the problem statement. The goal of the process, we want to suggest, would be to generate options to improve lake health by addressing root problems. So we don't want, for example, to just keep mowing the grass and say, okay, well, just keep doing that. We need to address the roots problems. We'd need clear metrics for improvement. For example, reductions in weed growth, fewer beach days closed due to blue-green algae. Next slide, please. You'd want to separate short and long-term actions. Short-term, worth doing, can be done quickly within municipal jurisdiction. Now, environment staff probably have and I think, more than probably, already have a very good idea about what these actions are. For example, on municipal property, should not take long to decide. In the long term, the key question that needs to be answered, what really needs to be done to restore the lakes to good health, and I would add to prevent future damage. So what are the engineering solutions? And let's talk about what needs to be done, not in terms of like, what do we think we can do or we're empowered to do, but what needs to be done, and then talk about, what the limitations on that would be. Next slide, please. Ideally, we would want the process to emerge with a set of costed options with varying levels of ambition to be presented to council, including those that could require interjurisdictional collaboration. So what this all has in common is about thinking big, not staying only in your sandbox, because that won't lead to anything new or probably useful. Next slide, please. So what are the consequences? Why do we want this watersheds process to succeed? Well, the consequences would be emerging with new knowledge and ideas about how to improve lake health. And importantly, I think a successful process will help energize the community and decision makers to undertake more ambitious actions. And it will set the standard for other watersheds. We can't forget that this is a pilot and it's intended to be rolled out to other watersheds if successful. Next slide, please. A recipe for failure. Okay, well, not that anyone would want it to fail, but accidentally, we might restrict the mandate to actions that could be done cheaply, easily, and within municipal jurisdiction. But the problem is, these are already known. There's no added value from this process. Staff could, in theory, come forward to council with these options today. So why would we spend 2 years and all of this money and time and volunteer effort doing that? We could also, as a recipe for failure, again unintended, set the goal as managing expectations about what is achievable, convince the community just to live with it, and use the process to justify inaction. Next slide, please. Consequences of failure would be no new knowledge, a waste of time, money, effort, and volunteer goodwill. And it would set a poor example for other watersheds. Why would you want to do this again if it really didn't result in any value? So the pilot could fail. Next slide, please. So why speak to SSC about this? Well, this watersheds framework was unanimously approved by this committee on August 1st, 2024. And recalling that meeting, there were high expectations and a lot of optimism about the potential for success. And I want to suggest that ESSC is the project owner at the political level, and that you are responsible to regional council and the public for the success of the framework. So what tangibly could you do? Well, we want to suggest that you could invite staff to ESSC to report regularly on process. Again, we're very early in this process. It's had one meeting. So perhaps every 4 or 6 months, invite staff to report, and this would be an opportunity for course correction if necessary, and to insist on a meaningful process. How's my time doing?
Your time is up now.
Time is up. Okay. All right. So I'll leave it.
Just
open for
finish your
questions.
last few sentences if you like, Mr. Gaudette.
Well, I just wanted to, say that we're not suggesting ESSC micromanage the process, but as the constituting body, we think you are entitled to set the broad parameters that you think will result in a successful outcome. That's all. That's the only sentence I wanted to say.
Mr. Gaudette, thank you very much for your presentation. As always, your passion for our lakes. Look to the committee to see if there are any questions from committee members. The board is now letting up. First up is Councillor Austin. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Gaudette and everyone in the group for their ongoing passion for this work. It is very much appreciated. I don't have a question per se, just to note that I like the idea of a report back to this committee. I mean, typically these things aren't kind of a 4 to 6 months, but maybe on a yearly basis with the watershed planning piece getting underway and that being a multi-year process. Idea of a regular sort of presentation update in here seems like a good idea, and I will take that away and discuss that one with staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Chair. And my comment or my question is, you mentioned that you had a very good first meeting with the provincial engineering staff. Do you see at some point HRM being part of some of those meetings just to ensure the collaboration and the information is being passed, or is HRM already involved?
HRM is not involved right now. The suggestion on March 6th was that we go ahead to the province and make those overtures, which we have done. We'd certainly be very open to trilateral meetings. I think the more people of influence and decision makers that are talking to each other, communicating, and talking about solutions, the better.
Okay, I have a follow-up, Chair. Okay, I think the initial direction, if I recall correctly, was to go to the province with some of your concerns, but now that you're working at the staff level, because initially you went to the minister, is that correct?
That is correct, and he referred us to staff. So
yes, of course, they do the work. Yes, we all know that. Thank you to them. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No. I just. Okay. I'm thinking about how we follow up on this. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that you are thinking of that, and again, we're very open to bilateral, multilateral discussions. It's a problem that the entire community faces. So yeah, let's talk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Seeing no other names on the board, if it's okay with the committee, I have a few questions from the chair, if that's okay. Mr. Gaudette, thanks very much again for the presentation. When you spoke to the Minister Hallman, first of all, I'm glad that Minister Hallman engaged very quickly with you, and I'm not surprised, being a good Dartmouth boy, and our lakes in Dartmouth are precious to us. How did he receive the idea of a task force?
He did not reply to it directly. What he did was suggest that we open conversations with staff.
Okay, so keep us in mind on that one. If your committee still feels the task force still has some value as you progress down that path, because that's something that may be worthwhile for the conversation around our lakes. Thank you. Next question I have is, do you have communications? I'm thinking of the Dartmouth Lakes again. I'm thinking Penhorn Lake, Outhill Lake, Lake Charles, Bannock. They all have groups associated with, very active groups associated with the protection of the lakes. Have you had any communication with those organized groups?
We have not directly. There is one of our members is very involved with Outhill Lake and has been historically. Okay. So we have a very direct connection with that process. But No, I think we are more involved, and our focus is much more tightly on lake science generally, and how we can provide advice that is supported by lake science. The activities of the local groups are extremely important. We want to stay open to communications with them. We do have limited resources. It's just us. So, we're happy to talk with anybody. But we try to remain focused on the decision makers and communicating established lake science and policy ideas at the highest levels that we can sort of muster.
I understand if there is value at some point in time in wanting to connect with those groups, Mr. Gaudette, reach out to me and I can connect you to some of those organizations if there's ever value there. My last question, obviously you started off your presentation about talking about stormwater going into lakes and the impact of that. I alluded to Penhorn Lake. We've had over the last couple of years, as we do in many other lakes too, our lovely, beautiful Canada geese that have seemed to have taken up homes around lakes, and a real problem at Lake Penhorn Lake, though I think we've made some headways in the last number of weeks. But any conversation around the impact of natural wildlife and what that has, the impact it has on the lake when you talk about lake science?
Well, certainly there is an impact, and birds and other animals have excretions that can negatively affect bird quality. But for a lake that's in equilibrium, that should not be a particular problem. I think it's more human activity and more how the lake gets polluted from broader sources as it gets carried in by stormwater, mostly.
No, understood. Once again, thank you for your passion for our lakes, Mr. Gaudette. We truly appreciate it, and we'll continue to communicate and connect with you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, cheers. Great, folks. That's the first presentation. The next presentation, if folks are ready, we invite Richmond Campbell and Mike Lancaster to come forward. They're representing the community-based wilderness stewardship. Yeah, welcome, sir. It's good to see you here at City Hall and the committee. Do you have a presentation slide deck also, or?
Deputy Mayor, we do have a presentation slide, but it will begin a bit later. I'm going to make some introductory remarks.
No problem. As the previous presentation, you have 10 minutes. The clerk will let you know when your time is running out, and then afterwards, if the committee wishes to ask clarifying questions, they have that opportunity to do so. So we welcome you, sir, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Richmond Campbell. I'm here with my colleague, Mike Lancaster, to present on community-based wilderness stewardship and its relevance for the Green Network Plan. I co-chaired the Woodens River Watershed Environmental Organization. Mike is coordinator for the St. Margaret's Bay stewardship of coordinator he is for the St. Margaret's Bay Stewardship Association. So why did I co-found the Woodens River Watershed Environmental Organization? Well, the Woodens River Watershed is a watershed involving some 19 lakes that flows from approximately exit 4 on the 103 in a southwest direction and empties into Woodens Cove. When I moved there in 1988, I started traveling in the woods because I've done that before elsewhere, and I was just overtaken with the beauty and wanted to protect it. And I thought, this is the way to go to sustain the environment, to start this environmental organization. But there was a problem. In order to get this protected, the public has to know about it. And when I was out there, I didn't meet a soul, except in in hunting season, there would be deer hunters out there, but otherwise, no. So to bring the public out, our organization built the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail so that people in general would have the recreation, which all its physical and mental attractions for health, but would also learn to love it, and that they did. The trail was opened in 2005, and Explore magazine, a national magazine of Canada, as you no doubt know, said that it was one of the 8 best urban escapes in all of Canada. The public loved it, and it did have consequences because in 2011, the provincial government protected approximately 10,000 hectares of wilderness in the Chebucto Peninsula, which is the area where we built the trail. But there's a problem. The public loved it so much that, as happens with other things, they a bit loved it to death. And what happens when you get the public out, if they're not well educated about how to make fires, how to avoid spreading invasive species, avoid getting lost and hurt, braiding trails, etc. But how are you going to do that? Well, we decided we would begin a community-based stewardship group program, and fortunately we had Mike Lancaster with us on this plan, and for 8 years there has been a stewardship program on the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail, and we've collected enormous amount of data showing how much it reduces the risk of wildfires, reducing other threats to the sustainability of this environment. So we think at this point it would be a very wise decision for HRM to expand the stewardship program to the wider wilderness in the Green Network Plan, including places such as Sandy Lake, Blue Mountain, Birch Cove Lake, trails, the McIntosh Run and the Shaw Wilderness, and where there's a strong wildlife corridors. But this undertaking requires the help of government. And we've got plenty of volunteers, and it's worked well in a smaller group on the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail. But to really be effective on a larger scale, we need a paid person in HRM who has the knowledge, the experience, the leadership skills, and the authority to help coordinate this project. And I invite my colleague to explain the details.
I am a fair bit taller than Rich, so I'm going to sit. I do have the presentation that Rich referred to earlier, so just going to get that going. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah,
we
there you go, Mike. You
and I have
welcome.
control.
The floor is yours.
So I've underestimated how short of a time 5 minutes is, so I'm just going to kind of blaze through a lot of this stuff. I'll be hanging around a little bit afterwards if you want to talk to me more about this. And we've worked a lot with Councillor Hardline in the past, so she can, I'm sure, answer some questions about our work. So what do we mean by community-based wilderness stewardship? This is my definition: responsible and conscientious use of and recreation within public wilderness based on sustainability, conservation, community monitoring, and observation. So one of the key words that's missing from that, out of kind of how public lands are managed, is enforcement. And that's the crux of these community-based programs. They're not there to ensure that compliance with rules. They're there to try to change culture around how communities that use these spaces interact with them. And as Rich described earlier, not love them to death or not put both the surrounding ecology or their fellow trail users, wilderness users at risk through their use patterns. So with places that are this remote and this inaccessible, you can't really rely on enforcement to change culture. You do have to have community buy-in, and that's where our programs succeed and excel. I'm getting more and more used to kind of tooting our own horn a little bit at the successes to try and get others to recognize the value and to support them. We call it somewhere between management and preservation as well, so it's not entirely hands-off, kind of the way that a nature reserve would be, where you're not technically even supposed to hunt, camp, or fish, but an area that welcomes community and through a lens of ensuring that their behaviors are more in keeping with community and wilderness stewardship. So the Bluff Trail Stewardship Program, as Rich mentioned, has been going for 8 years now. In conjunction with our island-based programs, we've trained over 300 trail and island stewards. The island-based programs have been running for a fair bit longer. We started those in 2007, so we're coming up on 20 years there. We've seen a tremendous amount of success in the reduction in the rates of prohibited fires. And in the case of this island, we've seen a reduction over 18 years of 30-fold. When the program first started, we were getting around 1,000 visitors to the island and about 50 prohibited fires a year. Now we get about 12,000 visitors and between 6 to 10 prohibited fires a year. And so the amount of success that we've been able to have in changing the culture of some of these wilderness spaces is quite remarkable, and something that we'd like to see replicated at a bigger scale that doesn't rely on a kind of core group of very passionate and dedicated people that are willing to do the work without getting paid. There's a lot of the success that we have had has been through being able to secure funding to have paid staff, but finding that is quite a challenge. During that time, we've also removed over 21,000 pounds of waste and coordinated 25,000 hours of volunteer service. And we generate around $500,000 of annual in-kind contributions through companies donating the use of equipment or volunteer time. So why is community-based wilderness stewardship necessary within the Halifax Green Network Plan? There's a lot of areas that have kind of similar problems to what we deal with. They have high levels of community use and resulting in kind of high levels of harmful uses. A lot of prohibited and illegal and unsafe fires. This contributes to ecological degradation as there's kind of acute issues that are more around fires, tree cutting, garbage dumping, that kind of thing. But a lot of it is more cumulative, just the fact that the Bluff Trail, in our busiest year, which was the first year of COVID, we got an estimated about 40,000 users in the course of a year. So you can kind of imagine how much of a consideration that has when it's not the person behind you, but the 39,998 people coming behind you. We have quite an issue with, as I said, enforcement. It's not something that we're looking into as a group. That's not our role, but it is quite a challenge in the management of these areas. Invasive species, as Rich mentioned, is a challenge that climate change has continued to make worse, and we're trying to always get a handle on. So the benefits of this approach in some of these examples, Blue Mountain, Birch Cove, Sandy Lake, Shaw Wilderness, these are areas that we'd like to see this kind of model expanded to. There's a reduced forest fire hazard risk, which is obviously something that's on everybody's mind recently. And we've demonstrated that quite clearly in all the programs that we've run, the amount of data that we've collected. I'd be happy to go through that with anybody to showcase that we have a very effective way of managing and addressing that issue. And doing that through cultural change, increased volunteerism, increased management capacity, and reduction of ecological degradation. And I'm very proud of how we're able to take a relatively small amount of seed funding and turn that into a tremendous amount of value. That's something that the small nonprofit world is incredibly good at. And we've helped to reduce the spread of invasive species in these areas. So in short, community-based wilderness stewardship is necessary to ensure the sustainability of HRM's wilderness spaces and their surrounding communities. So this is kind of where ecology and community mesh and overlap. And the greater ability there is for government to realize that those two things are not separate, but something that need to be happening and managed in tandem without separating one into a separate bucket, the better we're doing at community governance. So it's something that we're really hopeful that moving forward, we don't have to rely on the passion of people like me to kind of send the message home. This year for our program, I'm probably not going to get paid, but I'm still doing the work anyways. There's not a lot of people that are going to be willing to do that kind of thing. So having a paid position that helps to coordinate and build capacity for organizations to actually compensate young people for doing these roles rather than relying on people that are willing to take a financial hit to do it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Campbell, to both of you. Thank you for the obvious passion that you have. I know these trails that you alluded to. I've been on every one of them. So I'm a mountain biker. So McIntosh Run is a place I spend a lot of my time on. So fantastic. So we do have some questions from the committee. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Chair Mancini. You mentioned about working with the other groups. Have you spoken with the other groups, or I'm curious because I'm most familiar with Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes, and curious if you've spoken with them because they're quite a well-organized group. So.
I run training sessions for them. They're trying to replicate what we've done. And they realize how much of a challenge it is. So I've kind of tried to loan myself out as much as I can to them, but we have a very qualitative based approach that the amount of difficulty that we have managing our 26 kilometer trail network and 17 islands in St. Margaret's Bay and a roughly 30,000 hectare watershed area of St. Margaret's Bay. We do a lot of wilderness-based programs throughout there that we haven't touched on today. A lot of river restoration and many other programs. We can't really expand anymore. And that's part of it, is that I've kind of realized, oh crap, when people ask for help, I can't do it anymore. and I'm obviously, this is my life and this is what I want to do. And that's part of the reason that Rich and I started to develop this proposal more, is that I'm at capacity and I can't do anymore. So there needs to be more support for young people. We've got lots of young people that work for us seasonally that we often can't find the funding to pay them for year-round positions. And a big part of why we've been able to see success is to kind of work off the momentum that I've been able to generate as a very dedicated volunteer, and then build off that to leverage it. And we've worked with a number of groups, including Friends of Blue Mountain Birch Cove, to kind of advocate for that model and show what we've done. But it's really challenging to kind of replicate that. And we think that it needs some kind of paid central position where somebody that's all they do. They're just dedicated to increasing capacity and making sure that these groups have what they need to succeed. Because right now it's just too much of a challenge to kind of overcome.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering as well, do you see the trails associations as being included under your concept?
There was the group, the Halifax Regional Trails Association, HARTA is generally called, that's I believe kind of somewhat defunct. I think it's not entirely officially canceled, but I believe it's no longer fully functional. When that group was functioning, it was a really great way to kind of have cross-pollination between the groups and talk about issues that we all face together and help get access to funding. Having that present was very useful and helpful. And there isn't really something that's kind of gone to fill that void now. And on the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail, for example, we need to raise about an average of $30,000 a year to pay for purely our infrastructure maintenance. For those of you who have been on the trail, you'd be familiar with the extensive boardwalks. Begrudgingly, I've done most of those projects. The amount of work that's required to kind of schlep literal tons of material in and out of the wilderness, and it's very costly, very difficult. Not a lot of people want to do it, and those that do charge an arm and a leg. The amount of time that we need to dedicate to fundraising kind of becomes a really big part of that question. And HARTA made that a little bit easier, and now we don't really have a similar kind of conduit to funnel a lot of those efforts. So this is part of that we need a new streamlined process, and ideally position is what we're advocating for, to make that a lot easier on all these groups that would benefit from it across the municipality.
Okay. I'm happy to hear you say that HARTA was beneficial and that this includes the trails that are not necessarily wilderness trails as well. I too have been hearing that there's a gap there, and the sharing of best practices across these groups was important. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Councillor White.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you both for your presentation. I guess I have a few questions. First of all, if you see someone in HRM taking the lead, it sounds to me like there's also funding required for the volunteers to do their work. How do you envision that? That's one. I'm just interested in how you actually educate the public on improving culture. And then, is this position that you envision purely for municipal land or for other orders of government land as well?
So can you repeat the first question again, please?
Yeah, the first one, oh God, what did I say? I had three back. Let's just do the first two that
Sure,
I can
yeah.
remember then.
One at a
How
time.
do you educate the public?
How, you educate?
Oh no, the first one was, it sounded to me like you're going to need more funding than
Yes,
just
sure.
the worker bee.
Yeah, the way we're trying to replicate and expand the success that we've been able to see with our current programs. So right now, like with my work, I get paid for a relatively small amount, and then I expand that through grants and fundraising, and that's kind of part of the model that we're hoping to replicate, is that if you have a base paid position that's able to generate kind of an establishing amount of momentum, then that will carry forward with that person, part of that person's role to be fundraising for these individual groups to ensure that they know they're like the point person for ensuring all these groups know these are the grants you need to apply for, these are the deadlines, this is how you do it. Some of them I will even do it for you when it comes to applying for kind of a larger pot of money or a foundation's pot of money. The amount of kind of momentum that position would continue to generate in the model that we're proposing, you can take quite a small amount of money and then the position will generate a lot more to help supplement both seasonal positions, infrastructure needs, and kind of paying for all the other costs associated with this type of approach. That's largely what we do, is to take a small amount of money, and then by the end of the year, when you kind of add up everything that we've increased in value, we've more than quadrupled the amount of funding that we got. So that's kind of the approach that I would see this position taking.
Okay. Second one was just how you educate the public. Okay.
I wanted to, if I could, just add to what Mike said. It's completely consistent, I think, with what he said. But if you hired someone and there's a yearly paid salary, that wouldn't, there would have to be more money than that provided, because there are all
That's what I'm
sorts
hearing,
of
yeah.
costs that are involved in internet, office space, insurance, costs for managing large events, and so on. You can probably list them much better than I can. So it would it wouldn't be cheap. There has to be costs added to those to get it. But compared to the gain that will be gotten in reducing these risks, I mean, right now we can't go in the woods.
Yeah.
I was taking my dog out this morning, and I hesitated at Point Pleasant Park because there are roads there, but there are woods there. Am I allowed to go in or not? I mean, it's drastic and this is just, I'm afraid, going to get worse unless we mitigate climate change. And the way forward is, what we're suggesting is fairly cheap relative to the sort of costs we're talking about, but it's not nothing, I grant that. Yeah. And I think it's important to emphasize that point. I think your other question is very important too. I'll let Mike respond.
I see they've got 40 seconds
We've got
left.
40
so
seconds. Yeah.
We do 8 hour.
We can come back.
We do 8 hour training sessions.
Yep.
So love, inclusion, community, those are kind of the 3 keywords. I can go into more detail later, but that's how we affect cultural change. Repetition is a big part of it.
Okay. I was just trying to envision someone who's coming into the park. How do they know? Like, is it signage? Is it before they come? Like, if they're just there to camp, and how do they know all this?
We have, for example, on the Bluff Trail, we've got 4 seasonal staff that are there full time year round that I find federal funding to pay them for, and then we raise the funds to bring them up to a livable wage. They're on the trail 35 hours a week, engaging with community, remediating harms, collecting data, and essentially acting as ambassadors to the trail in a way that's not enforcement, but I call it like a hand-holding approach, that you kind of want to join them on a stewardship journey together that's very inclusive and based in shared values rather than communication and compliance, but relationship building.
Okay. We're out of time.
Show them that an acknowledgement that they love the space, you know they do, and as somebody who loves the space, they would probably want to hear what you have to say about how to not love it to death.
In person. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor. Mr. Campbell, I had the same conversation with my dog this morning outside Shuby Park, and so I said, no, buddy, we can't go there today. I don't think so. Maybe we'll get clarification later as I look over to Baggy. Next is Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mike, thank you so much for coming. Thank you to you both. I can personally attest to the value add of the position of which you were talking about. I am constantly struck by the amount of work that you do in St. Margaret's Bay and beyond. So on behalf of District 13, thank you very much. My question regarding the position, and maybe the folks at the HGNP, who I note are here as well, whether they can help me out in that understanding too. When I think of some of the park locations that are being considered for that, ambassador position that we would be thinking about for these areas, they are not always HRM lands. So when it comes to how we understand the HGNP, how we understand urban forestry, I'm wondering what that might look like vis-a-vis the fact that, for example, Blue Mountain Birch Cove, it's owned by, private, there's private owners, there's municipal lands, there's provincial lands. In the case of St. Margaret's Bay, some of the trails that you were talking about, those are already provincial. I'm just wondering what that relationship might look like, how we would have municipal employees or a municipal guiding hand inside of spaces that are not owned by the municipality. So that would be my first question. And my second question is that I'm also wondering whether there's an opportunity for us to understand whether urban forestry could play a role. I know that they are reasonably new in that role. I communicate with them pretty regularly just because of the need to fire smart green spaces inside of other communities and inside of neighborhoods. So those are kind of my two questions. I think that it is a fantastic idea. I absolutely understand and appreciate what a multiplier you and the position that you're referring to is. I don't challenge that. I'm just wondering what it might look like. So yeah, if anybody wants to tack into that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ms. McDonald?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, if I understand your question, I think of the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail. That's
Sure.
on provincial land
Yeah.
entirely. But the thing about what we're proposing, to put it very simply, the land that is under control of HRM, or I don't know what the proper legal term is, but the one that that HRM is responsible for, if you institute the kind of stewardship that we are advocating, which can't be done simply by volunteers alone, but mostly done by volunteers alone, there will be an effect on lands that aren't owned by or not legally controlled by HRM, because wildfires, invasive species, getting lost in the wilderness, those things don't respect legal boundaries. If you succeed in having this stewardship plan be effective in the way that it has been effective in our trial period of 8 years, more broadly, you will have positive effects for other lands. In fact, when we built the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail, we had to pass 5 different environmental tests at the federal level, at the municipal level, at the provincial level, and at the municipal level. I mean, so we can't just separate these things, and we shouldn't, because, I mean, legally they're separate, but the effects of the stewardship plan will not be separate. It will work together, and there's because And yeah, I think I'm just repeating myself.
No, fair, and I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Do you want to add?
Hello, everybody. My name's David Hodd. I'm the project manager for the Halifax Green Network Plan. Thank you. You asked two questions around collaborations,
Right.
and also with the Urban Forest
Yeah.
team. So at the heart of the Green Network Plan, central plank of the vision of the Green Network Plan is multi-sectoral collaborations. And it recognises that we will only succeed in delivering the Green Network Plan if we work with all the different sectors and all the different government agencies that are required. So when you look at places which have partly owned provincially, partly owned municipally, partly private conservation lands, partly not even parklands at all, we'll only achieve what we might want to use in terms of stewarding them well if we work well together. And that's not just at interjurisdictional level between different levels of government, it's also about different communities. And so one of the things that's interesting with the community stewardship approach is it's about communities working out how to look after the places that they value. And of course, communities as individuals, none of us look at any park and go, I'm going to go to a park today and I'm only going to visit a Halifax Regional Municipality one, or I'm only interested in visiting provincial parks. In reality, we use all of these spaces and treat them all as open, and our experiences aren't tribally branded to which agency it is that owns that land. It's one of the things that's interesting with the Blue Mountain Birch Cove work that's going on there is actually there is grappling this issue about the multiple ownerships that are
Right.
there. So from a user's perspective and from stewardship perspective, we have to find ways that are collaborating, and communities is very often one of the best ways to achieve that. In relation to so just to conclude on that one, so there will be a need to coordinate across, but we have to make that work because that's what we need to be able to do to make the vision work. On the urban forest question, should the urban forest team have a role to play? They could well have a role to play. I think the presentation poses a number of questions about if HRM was to take forward this as an area of work, where would those staff be best housed? And obviously that question really comes down to where can they hold the expertise in building community, but also having the right level of sort of ecological expertise that can understand those nuances as well. And that would be a decision, I think, that would need to be sort of worked out if that was something that the council wanted to take forward.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I'll come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Diggle-Gammon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Chair. Oh, sorry, needed to fix that. It was a great presentation. Thank you. And I think that it is obvious that the community stewardship concept is one that is going to be the most beneficial. What I'm struggling with a little bit is including these other partners that aren't actually here in this room with us today, right? So somebody from Blue Mountain, Birch Cove, from Sandy Lake, from Shaw. So that's a little bit of my challenge. If this presentation had been a combined effort from all of those, then it would look like, okay, this is exactly what our entire community is looking for and asking for from us. So not having their inputs into this is a little concerning for me, but I do know that you guys have met before with them. You guys have good conversations. It's just not evident in the presentation in this moment in time. And then I also wonder about, so in terms of our Green Network Plan, is this not the work of that team? Do we need another staff position that does this? Or is that mandate already embedded in the Green Network Plan and the work that we have to do there? So it's, I guess, maybe a question for you, sir. But yeah, so it's like, we don't want to replicate something that's already has its own mandate.
Could I answer the first question just
Sure.
before it evaporates from my brain? In regard to the kind of coalition-based approach, one of the endorsements that we have and that we work closely with on the refinement of this proposal is our HRM Alliance, which represents, I think it's 65
Are
groups.
they on this list?
They're not a presenter, but they're one of our collaborators with refining
Oh,
this.
okay, I just didn't see it here.
Yeah, and we had presentations to them to ensure that every one of those groups signed off on saying this is something that we support. Most of them would not have any kind of day-to-day involvement with it, but our HRM Alliance is a group that we worked very closely with to make sure that they supported this and would like to see this move forward. And I can also speak to just kind of me as an individual, because a lot of that work has happened through Rich. I regularly and consistently get asked by groups to kind of loan out our expertise, and it's something that we have to turn them down on because of the kind of necessary qualitative approach. It's just not something that we can really do. So a big part of this is that so many of these groups, including our own to some extent, are treading water, dealing with the issues that are right in front of them. Sandy Lake perhaps being one of the better ones, that their focus is not stewardship, but trying to ensure that that area gets conserved. So development is much more of a pressing issue for them rather than community use patterns. It's not something that they can tackle when they're trying to put out the fire of whether or not the area is going to be developed. We have similar issues with that. Even in our own work, that like right now a part of an area that we're trying to get protected is being proposed for what's called high production forestry. And it means that we have to detract time away from that high production forestry from what would otherwise be spent on restoring the river systems that we spend a tremendous amount of time on and doing ecological restoration work. It means that we have to focus on campaigning for various things that are not related to those types of approaches. And those are usually the conversations that I have with a lot of these community groups of like, it would be great to do what you do, and it would be great to be part of this proposal, but we hope that you can get it done. And that's the conversation that we had with our HRM Alliance of like, we support you. We want to see this get moved through as well.
Can I just add a quick, just very quickly to answer the question about whether other groups are on side, the 62 or 65. It's 65 now, I think, but in 2021, there were 62 groups, and that's when we originally put forth this to each of these groups, and we had discussions that went on for the better part of a year, and all 62 groups signed on, including leaders in the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes, Friends of Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lake Trails. So I think would they agree at this moment now? I can't say, but then I think they would. I mean, certainly some groups like Ecology Action Centers kept up with the whole thing day by day, but certainly it has been endorsed by these groups. So we're not doing this on our own. This is doing it for that 62 large group.
David, do you want to add to that?
I just very quickly wanted to pick up on Councillor Dick Gammon's point about is this something the Green Network Plan project manager role has already. I'd love to be able to spend my time equipping volunteers with the skills and confidence to help look after trails directly. My role as project manager is very much sort of coordinating and corralling people to help deliver the multiple different assets. There's 79 different actions in the plan. Typically that's off working at staff level and with different government agencies as well, government departments. And that's where a lot of my work is doing. There is an important role to sort of connect with community groups as well as to do that, but that's not at the level of a daily part of the role, building and equipping individuals, volunteers and groups of volunteers to do that. That's typically done in quite a concentrated role where I've seen it done elsewhere. And then maybe my role or other roles that might oversee that to sort of help make sure it's having the impact it has. So my role is sort of convening the plan as a whole rather than components of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Steele, second time around.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for David. In your a couple questions ago, you made a comment about working to coordinate groups. I'm curious what mechanisms you have in place for coordination, just so I understand how how that works, municipally, provincially, maybe even federally, given Parks Canada role with some of the areas. So maybe you can speak to that, please.
Different levels in which staff at HRM are involved in coordination in those sorts of activities that advance Green Network Plan. And the National Urban Park work process and exploration that exists is an important component of that. But there are other areas of work as well linked with things like the ecological corridors, and trying to sort of work with partners in multiple departments at the province to sort of explore the issues and opportunities of how we need to work with those. Historically, the sort of coordinating trails at a community level hasn't really been a major piece of the Green Network Plan's work. A lot of our work has been focusing on the sort of planning piece and trying to roll those pieces up. But it's a piece that when you look at the plan, success is only there if we're able to sort of really explore how we can make sure that HRM is playing its part. And obviously part of that is being clear what its part is, and that's where the direction would come from you. So.
Do you see the concept that's being proposed here as something that should be explored further within HRM, playing that coordinating role? Even though, to pick up on Councillor Hartling's question around, even though the land is not owned by us, do you see us as the facilitator, the catalyst to bring that coordination?
One of the challenges where land is in multiple different sorts of ownership is how do you work out how you come together to achieve any common objectives, and that's very often a space which municipal authorities or other levels of government can operate in, and otherwise it often only convenes if individuals decide to sort of bring that together. So, and it's certainly something when we did have a meeting with the Green Network Plan, met with our HRM Alliance and some of their members in the fall, and we explored with them what are the things that they most needed, and some of this sort of help for supporting stewardship work came up as part of the piece from them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hartling.
Very much, Mr. Chair. Wow, there's been so many things that have been talked about. So what I would say is, and I understand that there might be a motion coming on the floor. I was just going to say, I know because of my familiarity with a lot of these groups, I understand, the role that you play with the St. Margaret's Bay Stewardship Association, Blue Mountain Birch Cove. Like I think that, colloquially or in conversation and through meetings, I understand that there's already a really strong relationship, and I don't expect that we're stepping on toes or predicting that a future that doesn't exist. But maybe in advance of that motion that we just include that the collaboration goes on with some of those other community groups as we understand what that role, if that role exists, what it might look like. I think that might be an important piece of the puzzle. So I would toss in that, I guess, would be my one thing about the motion coming forward, is that, as we consider what that role might look like, that we seek out community engagement from those known groups, because there are many, right? Sandy Lake, Blue Mountain Birch Cove, certainly Macintosh Run, the St. Margaret's Bay Stewardship Association. Like I said, I have no doubt that the feedback will be positive. If it doesn't already exist, that we will go out and find it and find out that it's very much needed and wanted, but just that we include that as part of the process and the information gathering, along with HRM Parks and urban forestry. So I would leave it there, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor White, there's a rumor there may be a motion coming.
Rumor, yeah. And my third question was answered by all the great discussion. So I'll read out the motion that started with almost everyone in this room, and Maggie has refined for us, and we can discuss how it sounds. That the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee recommend that Regional Council direct the CAO to prepare a staff report that assesses and makes recommendations on the development of a community-based stewardship program for municipal wilderness parks that includes the identification of possible staff resources for a coordinator and other financial implications.
I see a second from Councillor Hartling. Councillor White?
Yes, I like this motion. I think it's encompassing. I just would want the understanding that the presenters and HRM Alliance would be consulted in doing the work. Would that be part of how you see this happening?
Ms. McDonald?
We can do that. It may be worthwhile to include an engagement piece in the motion just to ensure that it's there.
Does the clerk have a motion? If you could bring it up to the screen, maybe
Could we add
could,
including consultation with relevant community groups?
if you go to your screen now, committee, you'll be able to see the motion. And the clerk is well advanced in the variety of ages and the large font to make it nice and easy for us. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. McDonald, is that covered?
Okay, and
That
that's,
was a big thumbs
that's
up
great.
from her.
That's great. I liked seeing the board light up with more questions. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Councillor Austin on the motion?
Just one question, and it probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But does this committee need to ask for regional council, or can we just make like a staff report request out of committee?
I think the work has to be done in committee, but then it has to be approved at council, correct? We'll hear from the solicitor.
If it does have budgetary considerations, it does need to be asked by council.
Okay. Good enough.
So I think the initial work can be done, and then approval or disapproval goes to council, correct?
It would be not the committee asking for staff report, the committee saying regional council get a staff report. Can the committee just request for the staff report, and then the staff report obviously would need to be approved by regional?
So technically, committees can ask for staff reports, but sort of our practice lately, and at least primarily with the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee, where there are implications is that the committee makes the recommendation to council even for a staff report where there are going to be financial implications associated.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not really fussed. I mean, I don't think regional council is going to turn down a staff report request on this, so that's fine.
Hopefully.
Councillor Austin, former Councillor Bill Carson, who was a procedures guru, he'd be smiling at you right now. His boy does well. It's very good. Thank you, Councillor. Let's see here. Next, we have Councillor Steele on the motion.
Okay, thank you, Chair Mancini. I'm wondering about trails. I'm not sure this, potential coordination, could it coordinate trails as well? We heard comments about the HRTA and how effective that used to be, the Halifax Regional Trail Association, which is now somewhat defunct. So I'm curious. I'd like maybe to hear from Maggie on this, or maybe from David. Just curious, because I think there is a need there and potential benefit on the trails. So wondering if we could, or am I trying to dilute the motion too much? So that's what I'm not clear on. So looking for a little staff advice on this.
Ms. McDonald?
I may ask David whether he wants to chime in on this. There's to an extent it's a question of what the committee is looking for us to do. Really, and how broad you would like it to be, and we can address that in the staff report. But if there's anything beyond that, David, feel free to.
That's okay.
No. Okay.
So good.
Okay.
Councillor, did you get your answer?
No, not really. Sorry. My apologies. I was distracted.
Councillor Hartling, could you stay after school today? Again?
I sort of heard that it's up to us what we want in terms of providing the guidance. Is that a fair summary?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
And it would make the report a larger and probably a bit longer to come back, but it would be more comprehensive. So really up to the committee as to what you'd like to see there.
Okay. So I guess the question becomes, Councillor White, would you consider that a friendly amendment, or should I prepare my own motion later?
So maybe the councillor can come back when she closes and comment on that. So we'll go next to Councillor Digger Hammond.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Chair. I think I missed whatever that was going on there. There was the laughter and the words in between, so I think I might have missed what was going on that one. I don't know what the friendly amendment is.
For your benefit, there was conversation do we include specifically trails as part of this motion? And then Ms. McDonald suggested it should come from this committee if you want to include the trails or not.
Okay, thank you very much. So along that line, we've had conversation that the areas that were mentioned have multiple property owners. Private property, provincial property, municipal property. And this motion says development of a community-based stewardship program for municipal wilderness parks. So that is specific to municipal properties. And is that I thought I heard from our presenters that it's to look at all of these multiple partners that are involved in all of these spaces. So is the wording in this motion limited to just municipal owned lands? Or was it to look at something bigger like Birch Mountain Blue Cove, Shaw Wilderness Park, Sandy Lake?
Go ahead.
So as written, it speaks to municipal lands. I think, as one of the presenters mentioned, there's a benefit when a single landowner looks at some of the relationships, and that carries often forward to other partners. It becomes a bit complicated. For example, we've got a separate process for Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes where we're working directly with partners there. So we're developing a process there about how we work together, how we manage lands that are owned by the partners. So it may look differently in different instances. I think there's a benefit there's a pro and a con. There's a benefit to keeping it restricted to municipal lands because that's what we own and control. And that still, I think, spills over into how we have relationships with other landowners that may be adjacent or in areas where there are partnerships, that sort of thing. But if the committee is looking for us to come back with a report that speaks more broadly to how we work together with partners in areas, then you may want to consider broadening that out a bit. It does become more challenging to manage when it's approached that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And again, the mover of that motion could could respond to that also. Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to weigh in and say that I would feel comfortable with taking the municipal out of municipal wilderness parks only because I think that we've heard loud and clear that there is an appetite and a need to understand our green spaces holistically. And so while I think that there would be value in the position regardless, I think that we would get the most value add if we had a position that was able to stretch across the aisle and understand how we can steward these green spaces, not just in municipal lands, but municipal lands and beyond. So I'll leave that there. I mean, this is Councillor White's motion, but that would be my first feeling there. In terms of trails, I would hope that my feeling and my sense of this motion is that we are looking at stewardship for our green spaces, not maintenance of trails. So while I appreciate that they are both very useful and helpful, I feel like the the position that I am envisioning is not one and the same as what we get from, for example, St. Margaret's Bay Rails to Trails or something like that. I don't feel like that is really the same purpose. So my hot take, if I could put it that way, is that I would like to see something that actually has a benefit to all the green spaces inside of the municipality, whether they're municipal lands or not. And honestly, trails, while they are outdoor, I don't see that the stewardship relationship is the same. So I would leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Austin on the motion.
Thank you. I mean, my inclination is always typically on these things to leave them as broad and open-ended as possible, because we don't know right now what we don't know. We'll come back in the staff report. So if we wanted to take out municipal and just say green spaces, I think that would be fine. Now what comes back in a staff report might very well say, restrict this only to municipal spaces where we have clear authority, right? Like that might be what the staff report then says to that kind of notion. And, I think the trails, they're part of stewardship. It fits into it. But, I would agree that like we're looking at kind of this kind of higher level. It's not just about trails. It's about all the sort of activities. But, I don't think it would, personally, I don't see a big deal if it just said green spaces, because then staff can tell us, don't go there, or, that's fine. We want to take on a more coordinative approach, even on lands that we don't directly control or have authority over.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor White, did you want to close?
Yes, thank you all very much for the conversation. And I did have the same thought when I read the draft, so I'm happy to take out municipal. I also did have the same feeling about trails. It just feels like a scope creep and a different beast. That's okay.
So you consider that to be friendly, so we're removing municipal from the motion?
I'd like to remove municipal, but not get into trails.
Clerk will make that adjustment, and I assume Councillor Hartling, being the seconder, agrees with that as a friendly? Okay, great, thank you. So that was just a friendly amendment, so no further discussion on the amendment. So go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, so I understand the need for a broad wording, and I think it's good we've got it now in there. We'll consult with community groups. One final question would be, should we have any reference here to checking in with other orders of government, or just that's too wide to go from here? That would be part of okay. All right, then I'm happy with it as written without the municipal word.
All right, committee, what is your wish?
The question.
The question has been called for. All those in favor of the motions on the floor signify by saying aye. No one's opposed, so that motion is carried. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation today. I really appreciate the passion you have for our wilderness. Thank you, and hopefully, Richmond, my pup and your pup will get a chance to go in the woods in the near future. All right, cheers. Thank you very much. Let's see where we are next. Two great presentations. So it's time for public participation. Kevin, your enthusiasm is there. Just hold on to it for a few more minutes. It's time for public participation. This is where opportunities for people from the public can come forward and address the committee. I believe we have a couple of people signed up. Are they here? Do you know? Yep. Okay. So Kelly, are you in the room? Is Kelly Schneider in the room? Kevin, can you go with Kelly and she's in the washroom? Oh, no, sorry. Everybody knows you're in the washroom, Kelly. There's no secrets here in the Environment Committee, Kelly. Come forward. So you guys are doing this together? There are two separate people? Great. So the way that this works, I believe you've done this before, but just to make sure, you'll be given 5 minutes, and the clerk will let you know when your time is almost up. We ask you to address your comments to the chair. Keep your comments respectful, and if the committee wishes, they'll ask for clarifying questions after your 5 minutes is up. Do you have a presentation? No? So if you both could introduce yourself, that'd be great, and then the floor is yours.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Chloe Lajoie, and I'm the National Conservation Director from Watersheds Canada.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Schneider. I'm projects director locally with Reimagining Atlantic Harbors, which is a delivery partner for Love Your Lakes, which is a partnership between Canadian Wildlife Federation and Watersheds Canada. And so we do have a request for a formal presentation at the next ESSC meeting. And I'm just taking this time because Chloe is in town doing pilot project training with us. So Love Your Lake is the second stage of Love Your Lake program is the Natural Edge program. I'll let her speak to that directly. But over the last 5 years, we've monitored and supported with a personalized assessment by the time we're meeting, hopefully at the next ESSC meeting, over 4,000 parcels in HRM and a little bit beyond will be monitored. And so those property owners will have received reports that support stewardship at their shoreline. This year we'll be doing Grand Lake to Lake Micmac, as well as Lewis Lake in Mount Uniacke. And tomorrow we'll be headed to Chima Boat Club as well as Kinap Boat Club to present them with a fantastic opportunity to further renaturalize their properties using the Natural Edge Protocol. So just with the opportunity that Chloe will not be in town next month, I would like to help celebrate what is an amazing initiative.
Welcome to the committee, Chloe.
Thank you very much. So yeah, as I mentioned, I work for Watersheds Canada. We are a national not-for-profit and charitable organization based out of Perth, Ontario. So we've been working since 2002 to develop and share education and stewardship programming with groups across Canada. So as Kelly mentioned, we have a program called Love Your Lake, and that's done in partnership with the Canadian Wildlife Federation. And this is a shoreline assessment program where ourselves and then delivery partners across Canada work with lake associations to do shoreline assessments of every single property on a lake by boat, and it provides custom property reports that each landowner then receives, giving them an idea of how healthy their shoreline is, and then giving recommendations on what they can do to improve their waterfront property. As a follow-up to that, we developed our Natural Edge program, and that's because a lot of the recommendations we have for landowners is to naturalize and restore their shoreline using native trees, shrubs, and wildflowers. And this is to help improve water quality, stabilize shorelines using native plant roots, create vital wildlife habitat, both on land and aquatic habitat as well. But we found that people didn't know how to take that next step themselves. So we developed the Natural Edge in 2013 to then help guide landowners on how to do this on their property. So we've been developing the Natural Edge, creating various resources, including our Natural Edge app, which is like a shoreline planting plan design tool, and developing all these different resources for our program, including a native plant database as well. And we ourselves deliver in Eastern Ontario, but then we share our program and all its resources with groups across Canada. So that's why I'm here this week, is we are now working with Kelly and RAH to deliver the Natural Edge in this community. So this week we've been going out and doing site visits, meeting with canoe clubs, boat clubs, as well as just some private property owners to do site visits, create restoration plans with the goal of naturalizing these shorelines. I guess I'll just add that to date, working with all of our delivery partners across Canada, have restored over 400,000 square meters of riparian habitat using just under 160,000 native plants.
In the interest of 30 seconds, we have been speaking with the naturalization team as a part of the HRM, which is an amazing initiative. But what the Natural Edge niche is that we can work with private landowners and address a real gap in individuals accessing the amount or diversity required to create an ecosystem and a community on their property. So yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you very much for both of you for the presentation. Chloe, while you're in town, make sure that you spend lots of money while you're in our little town, so that'll be appreciated. I see a question from Councillor Steele. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, you put together information for individual landowners. Do you also put that information together so you have a collective report on a particular lake? So I'm curious about that. And yeah, so can you say a bit more about that? And I know you mentioned Chima and you mentioned Lake Micmac and some of the other lakes. I'm also curious, have you looked at Kearney Lake?
Thank you so much. So through you, Chair, the idea of the report, we have an individual assessment report that is offered in a survey code to every property owner. And then there's a value summary. So individual property owners are asked to submit a values survey as a part of the initiation of the program. And then we are also able, through the lake as a whole, to provide a value summary report as well as a lake summary report. And all the lakes that we've done to date in the last 5 years are posted on the rah2050.ca website, so they're available in public. And Kinap and Chima, our two boat clubs, will be approaching tomorrow using funding from RBC Foundation Tech Grant to offer free planting and planting services to those two spaces. They're keen and key spaces because they're accessible to the public, so they're points of education and potential propagation stations for native species to flourish, but then to be shared within the greater lake community.
Sorry, I'll just add that we do work with private property owners, but we like to do public demonstration sites. So these canoe clubs are a great example of that. This creates an opportunity to have like a volunteer planting day so that people from the lake or the community can come out, learn about the project, the importance of natural shorelines, and then can learn what they can do on their own property as well.
Okay. In terms of the Lake Watchers program that HRM has, do you collaborate with them at all, or?
We think it's a fantastic initiative, and one of the many goals of the Love Your Lake program is to support the establishment of stewardship organizations if we're not working with them already. And there is an example in East Hants of the emergence of a stewardship group on Lewis Lake, which is amazing to see, but they're not in HRM. So there's this fantastic day we've had about integrated management and collaborative spirits and knowledge sharing that we face, in every lake community. So to date, I haven't worked with Lake Watchers, but I am aware of what they offer in terms of having expertise and being able on the lake, and then being able to support the stewardship of that using finer data collection year round. So yeah, it is amplifying people's spirit and wanting to support further lake data collection is definitely a mandate within the scope of the Love Your Lake program and the Natural Edge.
Okay, thank you, and I look forward to your more detailed presentation. Thanks.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming here today to present to us and for all the work on this program. I think it feels, it's very complementary to things that we're already doing, like as you reference our naturalization efforts. I think about, Birch Cove Lake, right? Birch Cove Park, where we did that naturalization on the shoreline, and same thing has now happened in Penhorn, and I know I'm trying to get off the ground a similar project at Big Albro, but of course those are our municipal spaces, right? Getting the private property owners out there to do that, and I I think there's a lovely space here, because sometimes I think people are more open to a community, nonprofit, charity group approaching them versus sometimes, well, darn, government's not going to tell me what to do in my land, right? So I think there is a neat sort of space that your initiative occupies in between municipal and community, and sometimes having that come from a community sort of voice, I think, has some real merit and value. So I did just have one question, like, where this has been done a couple of times. What's the uptake like? Like, you send out this kind of report to, I don't know, 50 landowners around the lake. What's it look like typically in response?
Yeah, I'm aware of the lakes that I've done without the natural edge. So speaking specifically to the Love Your Lake program, the survey request for values survey uptake is much higher when there's an established community group, based on the fact that that community group can go door to door and have meaningful face-to-face conversations about the state of their lake and their neighborhood values. We're looking at over 50% in that case. And then
over 50%. That's a fantastic figure, whether you've got a group.
yeah. And then without groups, it's much lower. But the real beauty of the Love Your Lake program is returning 5 years later to manage again a survey of the entire shoreline and a snapshot, assessment that can support changes. So we can measure that change over time and understand if it's not good this time, with support, it can be better. Right?
Yeah, this is maybe just anecdotal, but I would be surprised if we sent out a governmentese letter to people saying, can you please do this thing, that we'd have a 50% uptake. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation and amazing work. Shot in the dark question. I am wondering, have you any experience with or do you have any familiarity with community groups like your own or others that are interested in naturalization along the coastline? I often hear, well, it's very similar. You do it about the same way, but I've yet to see a group or be a part of a presentation, have any real knowledge or awareness about how to treat living coastlines. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts, feelings, expertise, things to share. Thank you.
So I'll start with the coastal project out of St. Mary's University, which is partnering with the naturalization initiative that is HRM. They have a protocol based from BC called Green Shores, and they do fantastic work on the coast of the oceans. So I'll leave it there. Green Shores is the piece, but just from a natural edge perspective, if possible, could we talk about the river and agricultural spaces that aren't just lakes? Might be.
I guess I'll just add on the coastal aspect of this. Like, our organization focuses on freshwater lakes and rivers. We haven't done any work on coastal sites in the past. I guess it's kind of the same idea, but it is quite different. There's definitely a different amount of erosion control that has to happen on those coastal properties. So that's not something that we have experience or the expertise, I guess, to say do that. But the general principle is the same, using native plants to stabilize and naturalize coastal shorelines too. But yeah, it's not something that we've ever done with our program before. We focus really on freshwater projects.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for both of you. Enjoy your stay, Chloe, while you're here, and we look forward to the more formal presentation, hopefully next committee meeting. Thank you to both of you. We're still on public participation. I will call 3 more times to see if anybody else in the gallery would like to come up and speak. Would anybody like to speak to the committee? Anybody like to speak to the committee? And third and final time, would anybody like to speak to the committee? So no further public participation. So the last item on the agenda, we save the best for last, of course, Kevin, come forward. And I believe, sorry? Oh, none. And I've been told that I almost skipped over information reports, which there are none, so that's okay. Kevin is the manager of Clean Energy, and with Kevin is Claire Morley from the Junior Environmental Professional. So Kevin, good to see you. We're going to talk about. Sorry. Thank you. And so you're going to be talking about the Solar City. Before that, could somebody from the committee just put the motion on the floor so we do this in the proper order? We usually do it in reverse order, but Councillor White, please.
I move that the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee receive the report for information and presentation.
A second by Councillor Daigle Gammon. I think we're all in favor of that. Yeah. And so, Kevin, welcome. And for my colleagues around the committee that are first-term councillors, I'm excited for you to hear about this program. It's a very successful program that Kevin has led the charge on, and so I'm glad that you're here, Kevin, to share the news and where we are and where we're going. So the floor is yours, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Kevin Bootler. I am the manager of the Clean Energy team, and I'm here with Claire Morley, who supports the Clean Energy team across all different projects, but more specifically supporting the administration of the Solar City program, the technical expert, and the one who keeps all the contractors in line as we administer such a program. We're part of a team of 5, a small but mighty team on the Clean Energy team, and we lead work on public charging infrastructure, the fleet transition and education, corporate solar projects, renewable energy power purchase agreement, corporate and community emissions reporting, our Halifax annual reporting, and community-facing programming, just like this fantastic Solar City program. The Solar City program itself has helped countless residents lower the emissions and reduce their operating costs. And today I'm going to run through a little bit of history just for the, for the benefit of some of the new councillors and where we're at today. So the Solar City program is sort of multifaceted. There's 2 key components. The number 1 is expert guidance, and number 2 is financing that supports residents in making the jump to install solar on their home. With respect to the expert guidance, interested residents reach out to Claire, who supports them through the complex process of installing solar on their home. So we'll take a look, we'll support them in reaching out to contractors, we'll support them in working with Nova Scotia Power and the permitting process. We perform a third-party review on all proposals that come in. So we take a look at what is the average price throughout the program versus the proposal that a property owner is getting. We make sure that it makes sense for their home. We take a look at where the panels are being placed. So we make sure that they're not on the north side, they're not hidden under a tree. Our goal is to stay contractor agnostic, and what we want to do is ensure that the funding that's put into the program to support residents and going solar is for projects that support best practices in the industry and meets the needs of that particular resident. Additionally, we offer upfront financing to help offset the cost of installing solar through a property assessed clean energy mechanism. So it's PACE, which is similar to a local improvement charge. So folks are familiar with a local improvement charge. Property assessed clean energy financing works in a very, very similar way. There are no credit checks to participate in the Solar City program. If your property taxes are up to date, then you are eligible to participate. So it is a more equitable method of obtaining financing for some of these large costs. The financing that's offered through the municipality is considered low risk because we put a first lien on the property. That's what we do in exchange for the financing. And that lien is lifted once the full repayment is paid. And if there are defaults per se, or bankruptcies or a sale, we take the first lien, we get our money back. So again, the risk is fairly low. It's offered by many cities across Canada now. However, we were the first in 2012. I wasn't around, so I can't take the credit for that, but let's just say I was. So in 2020 or 2012, sorry, the charter was amended to allow for financing on the property taxes. That gave birth to the Solar City pilot program, which ran from 2013 to 2015, and it saw about 400 residents obtain financing to install solar thermal systems on their property. Following the success of that pilot program, Council directed staff to develop this current edition of the Solar City program for 3 years in 2016. In 2019, we came to Council and we made the program permanent. It's been running ever since. We made a couple of changes to this current version of the program. So one is a financing rate. So the financing rate that's being offered to property owners is fixed at 4.75% over a 10-year term. Property owners can pay that amount off at any time without penalty. We opened it up to all solar contractors. So the pilot program was it was an RFP for just one sole contractor, but we opened it up to the market. We do a review of each solar contractor that comes through the program, just to again ensure they have, workers' compensation, liability insurance, etc. We also expanded the technology. So as I mentioned, in the pilot program, we offered financing just for solar thermal systems, which was the cool popular thing at the time. However, we have expanded it, and now what the majority of our financing is going to is solar electric systems or photovoltaics. And that's really due to its versatility, which I'll get into in a moment. It's very cost effective and cost competitive. And it's really compatible with home electrification. So as people install heat pumps, people get electric vehicle chargers, installing solar electric to offset your electricity consumption just makes sense. There's also some really good supporting programs that existed and still exist in the market today that we encourage property owners to take advantage of in addition to our financing and our expert guidance. So there's two programs that were around since about 2018, 2019 that are no longer around. So the province had the Solar Homes Rebate Program, which was really helpful in driving the adoption of solar. In addition, the federal Greener Homes Grant was a $5,000 incentive for all energy efficiency measures, but some folks did use that. For solar, two programs in addition to the Solar City program are still around. So one is the federal Greener Homes loan. So the loan itself is a $40,000 interest-free loan over a 10-year period. That is for solar, but also for any energy efficiency and resiliency measures. So what we do is we encourage property owners to take full advantage of that program, install heat pumps, increase your insulation, so that your need for electricity is much lower, you're more comfortable, and then use the Solar City financing program as the offset. A lot of folks will also use the Solar City program as bridge financing. So with the Greener Homes loan, folks still have to come out of pocket until that loan is dispersed. So people do have to pay contractors up front, and it could be several months until they do get that money from the federal program. So instead of going to get a line of credit or something at a much higher interest rate, people utilize our program to bridge that loan, and it has increased access for individuals that can potentially not get a decent line of credit. Another program that's offered through Nova Scotia Power, and has been around since I think probably 2011 or so, and it's really one of the key reasons why solar electric is so popular, is their self-generation program. So when you install solar on your home, solar electric, you're going to generate a ton of solar electricity during the summer. You're not going to need all that during the summer because you don't have your lights on, you're not heating your home. So you're actually, through this program, you'll send the electricity back to Nova Scotia Power. You'll generate a credit that you will then save up and use in the winter when your solar is not generating and you need that electricity. What's fantastic is the value of the credit is the same rate that you pay electricity for, and as the rates go up, your credit therefore goes up as well. So it really supports the cost effectiveness of installing solar, and that's why it's been the most popular through the Solar City program. So the program since 2016 has been running in the current version, and while there have been some declines in uptake, as you'll see in the report over the last year, the Solar City program is the sole program that's been around, for this length of time. It provides stability in the industry, and with the closure of the 2 rebate programs that I mentioned, we have launched a marketing campaign to make sure that both contractors and property owners know that the Solar City program is still around and we're here to support people in going solar. So the program itself has received national recognition. So in 2020, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities awarded us as one of the top 20 projects that they've funded because they funded the pilot program. We've enabled about 9.8 megawatts of solar capacity installed in HRM. That's about 22% of all residential solar that has actually been installed in HRM. We've really supported not just our program, but this program and others have really supported the growth of the solar industry. So when I started working on the program in 2016, there was about 5 solar contractors in the province. Now there's about 90 or so. About 70 are actively participating in Halifax. And the cost of solar electric, again, has come down about 20% over that time. So the increase of contractors, it's been more widespread and much more cost effective. Since 2016, we've financed about $27 million in solar projects for residential property owners. That has all gone directly into the local economy. And as mentioned, through our financing, all $27 million of that does come back to us. And it's resulted in saving residents about $1.9 million in annual electricity costs through the operation of their systems. So it's increased the affordability for those who do participate. And I'm happy to take any and all questions related to the program or anything like that. So thank you very much.
Kevin, thanks very much to you and the team for that great work. You're fantastic. Let me see, who do we have on the board? Councillor Austin, speaking of solar, he can speak to you personally about that.
I can. I do have a set of panels on my house that from 2022 we installed them that are there courtesy of this program. So I know firsthand the value of it. My main thing, I mean, this is a fantastic program, very innovative, especially at its time. One of those things that I think we can be very proud of in our municipality. The question I keep having, and I think I've had it now, Kevin asked in maybe 2 years running now, I've asked the same question here. When do we get to the moment of saying, how do we scale this? Because in Halifax, Halifax says we need 1,300 megawatts of solar by 2030, which is just such a out there figure that, I mean, I don't see how we can possibly make that, considering we've installed 9.8 through this program and 45.4 just generally in HRM. Like, we are so many orders of magnitude short of that. It's impossible. But even if you can't hit your goal, failing to hit the goal is better than just not than Custer Dinkelkam's looking at me funny. Let me restart that. We are better to get a 70% than a 40%, right? Like, you're not going to get 100% on our grade here, but we're better to miss less of it than miss it by a mile, which is what we're on track for right now. So when I look at this, the obvious thing to do, I mean, the car companies know how to do this. How many ads do you see out there? 0% financing, come by now, right? Like, they know how to do this. When do we get to the point where we have a real conversation about making this an offer that is too good to refuse, where the public then, who might be sitting on the fence, says, hey, I can cut my power cost and do good on the environment at almost no cost to me, because I can get a loan with very low interest rate and pay for my payments in, to some extent through utility savings. We talk about affordability as a priority around here. Well, this is one of the few things we could do to help environment and put money back in people's pockets and drive our own local industry here. So, like, I've been waiting 2 years for this conversation around this objective of Halifax, but it hasn't happened. When do we get to that? Easy opening question.
Yeah, much appreciated. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor. So yes, 100%. I think we have this conversation, once a year. And the target is, intentionally ambitious to align with that 1.5 degree pathway of the IPCC. That is the target. But I totally agree with you. Reaching 70%, 60% is still has much greater benefit than just reaching 30%. What I would see as sort of sweetening the deal would be extending the financing term. So one of the things that I do hear from residents is that due to the 10-year financing term, people are still paying more out of pocket than what they would be paying for electricity. So it's hard to modify their monthly budget when they say, hey, I spend $100 a month on electricity. I know the benefits of solar. I know the long-term benefits. When it's paid off, I'm happy, but I can't increase my budget to $150 a month, right? So that's a barrier. So extending that term length would reduce that monthly cost. And then the other piece that you mentioned is the interest rate. It's currently at 4.75%. A lower interest rate would again reduce that monthly budget. And to the folks that I've talked to and to contractors that I've talked to, these systems last for about 25 years, typically, solar electric systems at least. Similar, I guess, to a mortgage, it's like, as long as my monthly budget's okay, I'm okay with waiting for this thing to pay itself off, over time. So I think what it would come down to, though, is a potential motion from council to investigate what the administration cost of changing that would be, what the potential benefit would be. The term length, the 10 years, is in the Solar City bylaw, so there would need to be a bylaw amendment to extend that. The financing rate is in the Solar City participant agreement, and it can be changed at council's direction.
Okay. I will work with you on a motion for our next Environment Committee meeting, because it's time, especially where we note that the program is not drawing in the same numbers as it used to, right? Like if we're serious about our Halifax target here, or even serious about making a good effort towards it, like, got to change this up. Thank you.
I look forward to that motion, Councillor. Councillor White.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I had the pleasure of meeting former Councillor Jennifer Watts, who I understand was part of getting this going. So that's nice for her and you guys. My question was, it sounds like you got a lot on your table here to keep this going, but mine was just thinking of other things I've found harder as a homeowner. Number one, getting off oil. Number two, deep energy retrofits. And if you see any value in having similar programs for either of those goals.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor, 100%, yeah. So when the Solar City program was launched and developed, like, it's, solar is really flashy. You see it, it gets a lot of buzz, but what the process of reducing energy consumption in your home is really reducing energy consumption first, right? So increasing insulation, electrifying your heating system, and then adding solar after the fact. So in 2019, we did have a bylaw amendment that gave us the ability to finance through the Solar City mechanism deep energy retrofits. My preference is to keep these programs separate. Solar City program has a lot of momentum, and while not easy, it is much less complex than a full deep energy retrofit. But Claire and our team, we did just finish a pilot program where we financed deep energy retrofit work. We put about 17 homes through the pilot, and what we did is we offered hands-on project management support to those residents, because it can be much more complex. There's more systems. You're dealing with a lot more different contractors. and then offered our financing. And our target was about a 50% energy reduction from the baseline in the home. We achieved about a 57%. And if you compare that to some of the other programs that are offered by other folks that do just, it's a one incentive per one measure type of program, they're resulting in about a 20% energy reduction because heat pumps are just quick and cool, and they're easy to be installed. So through that program, we're estimating about a $3,000 savings for each resident that participated in it. But we found that was a bit resource intensive to do the full project management, and not all property owners actually needed that. They just wanted some expert guidance, someone that they could trust. So we're actually modifying that pilot, and we're going to sort of simplify the navigation, so the guidance, so that is more of technical guidance, but also we're going to focus on homes that were built before the year 2000 and are primarily on oil, so that it can be sort of an easier package. We found in the pilot, it was any different home, any different building type, and it was 17 different packages. So to try and streamline the process, and also focus on those older homes that are on oil, because those are the folks in some cases that need more support in reducing the operating costs. So we're currently drafting an RFP to hire a navigator service, with hopes to launch that program, which will be sort of a phase 2 of the pilot. We're going to target about 100 homes to see if that more focused effort is successful, and hopefully launch that sometime at the end of this year is the plan.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good work.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. Very helpful, very informative. Just so I understand, this is targeted at residential, it's targeted for homes and homeowners. I'm wondering if there is an appetite, or if we were to look at expansion, whether commercial expansion could be a part of that. I feel like, commercial, so like industry and retail, all of those folks using solar, that would be a great way to get us to a better target. I don't know whether that's part of the program already, or whether that's something that we could expand into. And only just because I came from the grants committee and was looking at affordable housing within the HRM, whether there might be some synergistic opportunities there for us to think about how we could think about solar and affordable housing at the same time. I don't know what that would look like, and I don't have any opinions to offer today, but just that if there is an opportunity to make that make sense, then why we wouldn't be doing that, given that we already have those relationships. I'd just offer those two things. Thank you.
All right, no response there, Kevin? No, I think there was a question there.
Yeah, so through Deputy Mayor to the Councillor. So on the commercial piece, so our solicitor can correct me, but my understanding is that within our charter, we cannot offer financing to a business. Yeah. Right.
So once again, Councillor Hartling, the legal department shot down one of your ideas. Councillor Steele.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. I have to say this program wasn't totally on my radar, so I really appreciated the presentation. A couple of questions. You mentioned the drop in the program uptake related to some of the other grant programs ending. Are you having any discussions? Do you have any optimism that some of these programs may start up? Because I think that's probably what residents are waiting for, waiting for that next federal budget or other things. So curious, do you have any vibes on that? And then I have a bunch of other little questions that I'll throw at you one at a time, if that's okay.
Through you, Deputy Mayor to the Councillor. No, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful with the federal government that there may be something. With the provincial government, the the cancellation of their program was very sudden. It was a very popular program, and in my discussions with counterparts, there's nothing that is in the works that I'm aware of.
Okay. And is the program available without taking the financing? Do you provide all the navigation service? And then if someone is not interested in your financing?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor, yes, we encourage that.
Okay.
Our goal is for people to go solar, whether they use our financing, another program. The service is there. Claire will be on the phone walking people through the process, and then if they say thank you so much, I'm gonna pay for it out of pocket or so forth, we say that's fantastic. We got them to go solar.
And you mentioned that you rate the solar providers. Is that public, or is that something that you keep confidential?
So we actually do a review a per system basis. So we don't actually have an approved trade network. So Efficiency Nova Scotia does have an approved trade network, so we point people in that direction. And when the rebate was around, people needed to select somebody from that trade network. So they were vetted by Efficiency Nova Scotia. We check to make sure they have liability insurance, a valid liability insurance, workers' compensation, and they're legally allowed to work here in Nova Scotia. And then we do a review of the particular system, just so we can call people out if they're trying to oversell a system, or again, as I mentioned, put panels under a tree, and so that's not a good idea, Yeah.
And you mentioned Efficiency Nova Scotia. That was a nice segue into my next question. How I've worked with Efficiency Nova Scotia, but not Solar City. How do you see, what's the differentiation in your roles, really?
So Efficiency Nova Scotia, specific to solar, their role was to offer a rebate. Okay. So it was a $3,000 rebate. We provide the guidance and financing if needed. Okay. So we worked quite closely together because many people combine both offerings.
Okay. So the navigation service you're talking about for the future, which we'll hear about in detail, that there's no duplication between that and what Efficiency Nova Scotia does, is there?
No. So as we ran the pilot, we did work very closely with Efficiency Nova Scotia, and Efficiency Nova Scotia does guide property owners, but they have their home warming program, which is focused on lower income individuals. The program that we would launch would be sort of the missing middle.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other names on the board, if colleagues, you don't mind, I have a few questions and comments for Kevin, if it's okay from here. Kevin, thanks very much again, as always. You mentioned earlier that we were the first, and that we had something to be proud of, and you couldn't take credit for it. Here's some advice from folks around this table. We get blamed for stuff all the time that we didn't do, so when there's an opportunity to take credit, go for it and don't even mention it, right? That's my advice for you today. You alluded to the safety piece here for the municipalities. You put a lien on the property. Have we had to utilize that since the program's been open?
So I believe I can get more information for you, but I believe there was one bankruptcy that resulted in in taking the lien. Yeah,
that's the security blanket for the municipality.
That's correct. No, that's we work with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and across Canada, the default rate is next to nothing.
Yep. Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, no, that's good. Earlier in the presentation, I might have missed it. You alluded to support for home EV chargers. Is that correct? Can you explain that again? He's smiling because I'm always talking about EV chargers with this guy. So yeah.
So in the intro, I talked about that our clean energy team is responsible for the design, installing, and operation of public charging and fleet charging. So through the Solar City program, EV charging wouldn't be eligible at this time. Yeah, we'd need a motion, I think, from council or a change to add that to it. I think it would be fairly easy to do, and it could go a long ways to supporting the electrification of transportation as well.
Maybe that's something offline we can chat
Right.
about.
Yeah,
I'll
sounds
look at that. Fantastic. There's another note here. It's funny you talk about the number of supporting companies that are out there. I was just at a grand opening last week at the solar charging station in Burnside. It was 10,000 square feet. And a company from, I think they were from Victoria, that came down and opened up shops. They saw the work that's happening here. So there's more and more businesses here. Could you just share with my colleagues, I'm not sure they may or may not be aware of this, and that's not directed to Solar City, but it is solar, about our electrifying of our buses and how they're actually charged. So they all know. They may not know how that works for us.
Yeah, certainly. So as Council likely knows, the Red Lake Transit Terminal has been expanded to accommodate 60 electric buses, so they've got some charging infrastructure there. And as part of that expansion, our team installed about 1 megawatt of solar on the roof, so that's the largest that you're allowed to install under Nova Scotia Power's net metering program. And I have to get the stats, but I'd say it's probably the largest in Nova Scotia rooftop wise. So that just recently got commissioned. And I guess what's important about that is the fact that, you know, we're electrifying our fleet, so electrifying our light duty, our buses. You know, what you hear a lot of the times is, you know, you electrify, but Nova Scotia Power, you know, generally is produced by a fair bit of coal, which is accurate, you know, although electric vehicles are more efficient, so it actually is less tailpipe emissions. But by installing solar on our facilities, that further reduces the emissions associated with our electrification. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think that's really important that we're all understand that and articulate that, because there is opposition out there. Well, Nova Scotia Power is still doing dirty energy. Well, in fact, our buses and our fleet is being charged by solar. I think that's pretty cool. Excellent. Last item, or two more items actually. What about incentives to development? So we have several developers. I'm just thinking of Dartmouth alone between Councillor Austin and I, and all councillors do. But I look at the parks of Lake Charles, having some sort of incentive so that we have even one section, one street that's totally solar, right? And I don't see any solar panels on that in any of those buildings, but we have so many other developments going on. Has there been any conversation, Kevin, about working with developers, or is this needing a motion to help support them? Right now we're hearing about the province pushing back on the fact that we're requiring EV chargers to be wired in buildings. But, is there an incentive that we can use so that we can look at those bills and work with those developers?
Yeah, so I think it's unfortunate, like where we're at currently is anything that increases the upfront capital of building is even though the long-term savings and benefits are there, I would say it's most certainly a missed opportunity in the cost of building developments and so forth. The cost of adding $20,000 of solar is a line item perhaps, right? But we have not had any conversations, myself at least, directly with developers. When it comes to incentives, I'll let the solicitor chime in, but I don't believe we can give money incentives to folks for solar.
Halifax Charter does have the subsection 71.2, which is that we cannot provide a financial incentive or tax concession to a business or industry. I think, Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have asked for legislative amendments for an exception for environmental. But I could be wrong about that.
I'd have to look into that. Yeah.
Well, maybe thank you. Maybe that's something that we can, that item and an EV charger, Kevin, and we can have take offline to investigate. And the last item, I really like to see all of council understand the program. I know you've come in the past years to explain it to them. Maybe it's a lunch and learn opportunity. that we could do just to do similar types of presentations, so all our colleagues, particularly our first-term counselors, are aware of the program. So that's it for me. Kevin, thanks very much for you and your team. You know, you were with friends in this committee here for sure. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so just to finish up our agenda, folks, there are no motions, no in camera, no added items. Or are there any notice of motions from the committee? No, but I hear there's some brain juice going on here for future meetings. We'll be coming back. Date of the next meeting, hate to say it, but I have to say the word September. September 4th is our next meeting, and if we need to move her for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Steele. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to staff. Really appreciate your time today. Cheers.